The Verdin Company is a 175-year-old family-owned company in Cincinnati, and we make clocks and bells and everything there is to do with a clock and or a bell, which would include towers, it would include street clocks, it would include big bells, small bells. It includes things like piano bells that we made, and for Smale Park. There's a carillon here in Mariemont that has a number of bells, 48 bells, and that's played here in town. Plus Mariemont has 2 of our clocks here, one in the center, the community center, and one in front of the Mariemont Inn. But the Verdin Company started in 1842 when they first put the clocks in Old St. Mary's in downtown Cincinnati, actually in Over the Rhine. And the Verdins arrived here from France about 1835, and it's been a family-owned business since then. They brought their clock-making business with them from France, and each one of them each generation, I should say, has been an innovator of clocks and bells. So Jim Verdin, their honoree today, is the 5th generation. He had 2 cousins, and they inherited the business. Well, sort of inherited the business from their parents. Their parents lived here in Mariemont. They lived here in Mariemont, and Jim stayed here for quite some time, living here. But he graduated from Mariemont High School in 1955. And went to the Army, and then went to work for the company. But the company is worldwide now, and it's recently Fox Sports came to us and wanted to record a story about time that they used before the Bengals Raiders game 2 weeks ago on a Thursday night. So we get a lot of national attention now, even though we're still a local Cincinnati company. Last year we celebrated our 175th anniversary, which was really a great party.
Between Mr. Verdin graduating high school and coming to work at the Verdin Company, what was his path between the 2?
Well, he always said that his path was when he was 12 years old, and he went to the factory and they had to sweep floors. So he and his cousins started out in the factory doing manual labor, and then in the summers between school, they had to go every day to work with their fathers who lived here, and they'd all go in one car and go downtown into Over the Rhine, and they would work at the Verdin Company. When he graduated from high school, he went to the Army, and then came back here and started in as sales at Verdin. And then he and his 2, as I mentioned, his 2 cousins inherited or bought the company from their fathers, and then started expanding the business. And we were located, at one time everything was moved from Over the Rhine to what's now Riverside Drive. There's a factory there, and built clocks and bells. Essentially that's all they did. But when Jim realized that they had to grow the business in order to make more money, they bought a 5-building church complex in the Pendleton neighborhood of Over the Rhine and moved their corporate office there. So, and then they started to go into other things that clocks and bells do. For instance, they started into different markets rather than churches. And they were all inventive. For instance, one of Jim's great-grandfathers invented what we call an electric ringer for bells. Prior to that, no bells they were all rope run. So he invented this machine that would ring it by electrically. Then Jim kind of took that inventiveness to a new level. With all our different markets, we were in honoring veterans, we were in colleges, we were in golf courses with clocks, with animation with glockenspiels, like at Mainstrasse in Covington. That's called a glockenspiel. It's a musical box, just a music box really on a big tower. So whatever was associated with clocks or bells, we do.
So it's sort of forever been a family business.
Forever been a family business, and now one of Jim and one partner are deceased, and one partner retired. So there is a sixth generation there. There are two younger men and a woman. So there are three of them that are the primary owners of the company and working in the company.
How do you think that having it been a family business has helped the Verdin company succeed?
Oh, that's a good question. I think because they relied on one another. I think that they were all, Jim was probably inventive and more entrepreneurish than the other two, but they each had their strengths. For instance, one of them sold, one of them manufactured, and one of them ran the entire service department. So we end up with a service department that takes care of clocks and bells all across the country. So they split it, and they each had their own, but they always worked together. When I got there, they would meet every Monday morning and discuss all the projects that had to be done, and then they went about their ways. Jim was always the front man, so to speak, in marketing. You know, where were we going to go? Where are we going to get new products? Where are we going to find new markets? I think I mentioned that earlier today, that we used to do street clocks for cities and towns, but no one ever thought about doing a street clock for a golf course. And now we sold more than 200 of them last year to golf courses. So he always had that inventive part, that he had the backup of his two partners.
So, I know you talked about different like places or different people to advertise to. How does the company come up with new people to advertise?
Where the markets that we would go to? That's pretty interesting. I think you heard me say you look at numbers. So our list of products will be church bells and the sizes of church bells. Or we'll look at the clock business and we'll say, okay, we have made 3-foot clocks or 4-foot clocks, or whatever kind of street clock we would make. Or we sold X number of electronic carillons. But we sold this many, and where did we sell them? Did I sell them here or did I sell them here? So then you start thinking about where else can you sell them. You just think about how would it fit into some other market. And I think I mentioned today that we're starting to look more heavily into institutions, because people are willing to give big gifts like a street clock or a bell for a campus, or like the Victory Bell here. People are willing to give those. And Victory Bells seem to me, I mean, I'm just saying right now, would be a really good market. You know, to say, well, why not? You know, you have alums that want to contribute to their school or honor someone, and a Victory Bell is a great place. There's one in Anderson that is in honor of a young woman that was killed in an automobile accident that was a cheerleader. And the one here is for a Jim Miller. You know? And that's a great market. So it's really not all about what you think, but you really look at the statistics, and you look at what else you are selling and where you're selling and how much money you're making from that. So I don't know. I've never used it as an exact science. I just, when you're in marketing, you're really looking at all the whole thing. For instance, we go to a trade show called the International Council of Shopping Centers. So, okay, well, what are we doing in shopping centers, right? Clocks and bells. Mm-hmm. But it works, because you'll find we've sold glockenspiels into shopping centers because they're entertainment. And then you can sell clocks in shopping centers because people want to know what time it is. And so it's a whole interesting way to different look at things. And then Jim would buy other companies. He just recently, a few years ago, bought a company that makes outdoor furniture that would enhance, like, for instance, if you took outdoor furniture and put it around the clock at the Mariemont Inn, he would have a seating place and people to meet, or things like that, yeah.
Awesome. So obviously Mr. Verdin this was part of his life for his
Yes.
entire life.
Yes.
What did he love most about the Verdin Company? What did it mean to him?
I think it was about family. It was about family, and it was about keeping the company alive, because it was so ingrained in all of them that it was a family business, and to keep that family going. And they did it because that's all they knew. Nobody had been in the paper business, or the steel business, or anything else. They'd never done anything else. So I think that was probably his passion, was to keep that company going. And in doing that, he had to invent different ways to sell a product.
So kind of going off of that, do you think that the Verdin Company will still remain in the family now that he has passed?
Oh, I do. Yes, I do. The sixth generation, they've been there. So they've been working there. The two younger men have been working there. They started working as service techs on the road. As I mentioned, he had a great sense of humor, but people loved him. So, and he was interested in all aspects of the business. He would visit the factory. The factory now is on Kellogg. He would always go down there, find out what people were doing, how they were doing it. He was always involved in the business, and I think that showed his character, because in a family business, I think, I've never really worked in anywhere else but a family business, so it was all about family. The company was about family.
Final question, sort of wrap it up, sort of like what you think the future of the Verdin Company holds.
Oh, well, I think there's lots to do with the Verdin Company, yes. He left a large shoes to fill, but I do think that everyone there has, the sixth generation, they're well trained to do what's for the next future. Especially, when you talk about digital work and things like that, and the digital work in clocks, and we have electronics that work bells. It'll all just get smaller and smaller and more efficient is what I think will happen. And then, they'll just keep looking, we'll all just keep looking for different markets to fill those places that, we've been working on. You'll have your major part, which would be churches, but then you're going to be out here with bells and clocks looking at a lot of different things. I think they're well prepared.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for the interview.
Guys.
This has been an
Thank you,
awesome day.
guys. Yes, it has been.